If you're not in a mood of happy and fun, I won't recognize your idea, well, benign idea, as worthy of either a new good possibility or a new addition to my already
Mhm.
subjectively good idea. So
Mhm.
as a leader, I'm in a meeting and I hear Matt say something good, and I already have an idea of that piece, and collaboration happens. And if you're courageous enough and allow to hear the other person out, and then there's a third piece that's created. The good leaders on the heavy end of that good spectrum are ones that will be able to give their ideas and also foster, I love that word, ideas of other people, but then fertilize them, because they might think it's a stupid idea, but they're brave enough, happy enough, and having fun that that idea comes out of their head. I
Mhm.
think we should have a new flavor for bananas.
Mhm.
Immediately, that's stupid. Shut down, and they recognize, yes, that was a stupid idea. There's zero creativity after that. We have
Mhm.
we have we have cut the head off of creativity. So it doesn't create any curiosity.
Welcome to another session of Inside Outlooks, where we know that personal growth is an inside job. How we think, what we think, and why we think it are what determines our level of success and happiness. It's time to take a look inside to change the world around us.
What do you want to talk about?
Hmm.
Bananas.
Dave.
This shit is bananas.
Do you realize that bananas are cloned from one banana?
Yes. And did you know the reason that banana flavored things don't taste like the bananas we know is because
You know that?
yes,
Oh, that's
you
amazing.
know it too?
I love it. Yes. Go ahead. Why?
Yes.
Why?
That flavor was made after a version of bananas to taste like a type of banana that no longer exists. It's not, it might exist, but it's not like the mass produced banana we eat. It was a type of banana that was popular, I think, in like the 40s.
So no one has since updated the taste of banana flavor in other flavored banana things.
Correct. That's why banana flavoring doesn't taste anything like the bananas that we eat.
What in the fuck are we doing this for? We should be updating banana flavor, period, end of story, and then we're
Cute.
fucking millionaire.
We
Sorry.
should be selling heirloom bananas.
And inventing the new banana
Both
flavor.
sides of it. Yes.
It's not
What,
new.
what do you call? Do you call it like?
Vintage.
Uh, yes, you
Original.
do. Original, vintage, authentic,
The
The real
authentic.
banana flavor.
the real bananas. But what's our new one would be called? Like bananu,
Banana.
bananu. It's fun to
Not your
say.
nana's banana.
Not
Bananas.
your nana's bananas. That's the
Not
tagline.
your nana's bananas. I love that you knew that, and now I know even more. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Yeah. That's why
Hmm.
when I love real bananas, but I hate banana flavoring. So if I'm eating like if there's ice cream that's flavored like, there's like a banana cream pie ice cream, I'm always like, I have to taste it because do you make it with bananas or do you use banana
Ooh.
flavoring?
Now there is a banana pudding ice cream that I think Publix has or somebody.
And they
That's
probably use
real banana.
real.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So we'll have to get our crack research team on that to see whether or not it's a viable business.
I've got the perfect transition into whatever we're going to talk about. What's
Tell us.
yellow? What's yellow and smells like bananas? Monkey vomit. And that's the real thing.
Okay. I have
Okay.
a question. I have a real question.
Who
A
let me
real
out
a
of the
real
cage?
transition here. Yeah. I was told that my role here is to keep this shit in line. So this is the line that I would like to keep it in.
Go.
Don't
There's
believe
this
everything you're told.
concept, yes, that if you spend enough time with crazy people, you'll start to become crazy yourself. No, a lot of people say or think that like it takes just like one idea. Bananu. It takes one idea, right? One crazy idea to become wealthy, or like, you never know what it could be. I think the one example a lot of people use is sticky note guy. Whoever invented sticky notes, people were like, you're psycho, why do we need a piece of paper that's sticky? And now sticky notes are in every home and office, around the world. So here's my question. That requires some creativity, right? Some fostering, some idea.
Yeah.
How do you go from the person who has crazy ideas to the person who actually invents them? Or maybe the question is, how do I get started, like, putting my crazy ideas out there?
Yeah. Wow. That's big.
It is big.
Yeah. And courage comes to mind. Have you ever been in a real brainstorming meeting or session? Like a real one where it's just, it's fun and it's ridiculous and it's not so serious. That's a real brainstorming meeting where you set the tone, where it's a safe place and there's no bad ideas. It's off limits to deny an idea that comes out of someone. And that takes a lot of, for the person, I think it takes a lot of courage to say the bananas idea. If you're in that, the person listening, does it take courage to allow it to happen, even though you totally think that's a stupid fucking idea? It's worthless and it's ridiculous. Like, what are you mustering up in you that you know the rules, right? What are you mustering up in you that you sit and allow that to happen? Is that stamina? Is that awareness? That's what comes up when you say, how do you get to
Well,
that?
I mean, I think it's
Confront it.
vulnerability. It's being open-minded, right? It's another version of what we were talking about recently, like meditation. Like, it's not that you don't have thoughts during meditation, it's just acknowledging them and letting them go. So that's the same kind of thing, right? It's a group meditation in the sense that ideas come and you acknowledge them and you don't go, well, let's just hammer that at how bad that sucks. No, you just go, okay, cool, right? Because somebody else may go, oh, hey, I got an idea that goes with that. Because where I was thinking at the same time, because Daryn and I tend to be very much alike, because I feel that same, I would have that same question, right? But for me, it's collaboration, right? Which is where Dave went with the mastermind, because not everybody's good at everything. I have the creative side, but I'm not as good on the implementation side. So I need people that are going to help with the systemization, or whatever, or the implementation. Sometimes, so I think, and it's funny, Dave. We keep coming back to mastermind because we've been talking about starting one.
Yeah.
Like a real one.
Right.
But
Not a fake one.
that's my thoughts. What's that?
Not a fake one.
Yeah, we don't
Not
want,
a fake one.
we don't want the old kind of masterminds that taste. We want the old kind that tastes like a real mastermind.
Right. A mastermind anew.
A mastermind anew. Yeah. Yes.
On the wordplay today. That's killing it. Okay.
So back to Daryn's question.
Okay. Do you want me to ask it again? Do you want to answer it again?
Yeah.
So
What comes to
pretty
mind
easy.
again is the management leadership technique about it's not I can't, it's how can I. I think the instinct is I can't, so that's stupid. Whereas the awareness and the curiosity is, well, how can we? Which is exactly what we launched into before I started the recording. As silly as it was, how can we pull out a new banana flavor?
Yeah.
Right? That was a brainstorming session. It was a ridiculous conversation that was fun to have. But to that point, we started the recording and now we're all of a sudden serious. I think it was just as serious when we were talking about bananas.
One thing that comes to my mind, Dave, you said, well, there's two different like parts of that. There's like, how are you the one that actually has those ideas? And then how are you the person who accepts those other ideas or like creates space for them? And I think that was a little aha moment for me, because it's the concept of putting your oxygen mask on first before you can help others. But it is essential that you do help others, right? When you get to that point.
Right.
Because I think in that sense, you can say there's three kinds of people in the room. There's the ones who don't contribute any ideas, nor do they make it a comfortable space for others to contribute ideas. And then there are the people who have warmed up to the level where they're like, okay, like I'm in this. I can fire off some like fun little ideas. And then I think what is the highest level to me would be the person who also contributes their own and facilitates a space for others to contribute
Yeah.
and then fosters the generation of those ideas. And that's leadership, right? That's
That's allowing in true leadership form. Yeah.
and I think probably a lot of people who have made it to this point in a conversation or they're hearing us speak are probably the kind of people who share the ideas or at least have them. Like they're close to that level. And I know people who drive me freaking nuts personally because they'll share all day, but they have no idea how to foster a creative environment or facilitate other people's ideas.
Right. Or even be creative enough to look at someone else's idea and say that's valuable and it builds off of mine. So, some of it is about being happy. If you're not happy, right? From relating it to something basic, happy and fun. If you're not in a mood of happy and fun, I won't recognize your idea, well, benign idea, as worthy of either a new good possibility or a new addition to my already
Mhm.
subjectively good idea. So
Mhm.
as a leader, I'm in a meeting and I hear Matt say something good, and I already have an idea of that piece, and collaboration happens. And if you're courageous enough and allow to hear the other person out, and then there's a third piece that's created, right, going right back to synergy,
Mhm.
which I think is a little bit of what you're saying in the three
Mhm.
levels. It's definitely that I don't think I want to say unique, but it's not a unique in a leader, because that's what we're all looking at from a leadership standpoint. So the good leaders on the heavy end of that good spectrum are ones that will be able to give their ideas and also foster, I love that word, ideas of other people, but then fertilize them, because they might think it's a stupid idea, but they're brave enough, happy enough, and having fun that idea comes out of their head. I
Mhm.
think we should have a new flavor for bananas.
Mhm.
Immediately, that's stupid. Shut down, and they recognize, yes, that was a stupid idea. There's zero creativity after that. We have
Mhm.
we have we have cut the head off of creativity, so it doesn't create any curiosity.
It also relates back to and maybe Matt, you might have some relation to this. There's this concept in improv theater. It's yes and. If
Yes.
you're in an improv show, right? Like you're on stage and people are riffing and you don't know what to say, your answer generally should be yes and because you can play off of it, right? And I think that it's fun in improv, but it's most valuable or can be incredibly valuable in a brainstorming session, especially.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's the
but
words to avoid, right? It's the second one in the words to avoid in a basic exercise. But is the word to avoid, because
mhm,
emotionally,
mhm,
but is a very subjective, closed, emotional charged word.
mhm,
Well,
mhm,
it
And
negates
not to,
everything that came before it.
yeah, and it's not necessarily it's not a total negative. However, the way we receive it most of the time is a negative. If it's used
mhm,
grammatically correct in language on paper, it's usually making more sense in our head. When we hear it in language, it's charged from tone and inflection.
right.
And to Matt's point, it negates everything. My experience with my ex relationship is the apology was there, but then there was a but. I apologize, but when those two things cancel each other out, and in reality, the but is valid. It's just not valid in the same context of an apology.
Mm,
So more creativity can happen when you take the but is the rationalization as to why it was done, or an explanation or a reason. That's valuable, but not at
mhm,
that point.
right.
And back to the other point, it's kind of the 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah,
When two minds come together, a third is created,
yeah,
right?
Mhm,
And I think that's the mastermind. That's the collaboration it's about ideas and sparking ideas, but it's also about implementers versus creators versus, whatever as well. I think it's, I don't know. It goes back to me. It's like, being asked, well, why do you always think you need to, somebody to collaborate with on things? You can do this on your own. Well, yeah, but I don't want to, number one. And number two, I wouldn't get the ideas I'm going to get from whoever I'm collaborating with. So, I mean, yeah, you could put me in a vacuum and I could create ideas all day, but who
That's a
cares?
good example. That's a good example of the end doesn't justify the means for you, right? So not everybody wants to collaborate, or not everybody shines in collaboration. You do, and you've decided that's happy and fun for me.
Yeah.
So I get the most benefit out of it from my value proposition as a person. And ultimately, synergistically, that collaboration makes something better than I could have done by myself.
Mm-hmm.
It goes
And,
back
and
to
I,
the chicken or the egg. Yeah, I think for you and what you're saying, and I've heard you say this a lot, and it kind of points to I'm happy and I'm having fun when I collaborate. Period.
yeah, for sure. It's, I don't know, maybe I'll come up with a good analogy for it one day, but when I'm in my own space, my own head, my whatever, my thoughts are flying, bouncing, whatever. So for me, it's the ADD, it's the this, it's the that. But when I have another person, helps me focus, right? I mean, you guys see my ADD even when I'm here with you guys, bouncing off the walls and playing the ABC song and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like I still go there, but I come back. But it's that helps me focus
Shiny.
in. And I have often wondered how many people are out there that are having this same kind of thoughts that Daryn brought up today about the fact that, I've got this, I know this would be awesome, but I have no idea where to start. I used to ask around, I forget who I asked at one point. I was looking for like, is there a website I can go to? Is there this, is there that I can find people that want to collaborate, right? Because at that point, it didn't have that in my world. Now I
Right.
do. Not
You
because I
created that.
didn't think not because I needed more ideas necessarily, but I needed either somebody to challenge them, or maybe to say, well, all you got to do is this, and I never thought of that, right? Um, so I just think, I don't know, I think it's a missing link, at least in my world, and you guys may agree or disagree with me, and I think it depends on behavioral styles and all of that, but that I think there are people out there that have amazing ideas, right? It could be the post-it thing. There's the extremes. There's the what's her name that created Spanx.
Mhm.
I can't think of her name. She
That
wouldn't
chick
tell.
that created Spanx.
She wouldn't tell anybody her idea
Yeah.
because she didn't want anybody to talk her out of it. She knew
Mm-hmm.
it would work, right? And until it was ready to go and everything else, then she started telling
There's
people
somebody
about it.
who decided being happy and fun didn't mean collaboration for her. So
Right.
it's not the act of collaboration here. It's the act of being happy and fun. You could have a brainstorming session with yourself and
Mm-hmm.
have that be happy and fun,
Sure.
where I might shine a little bit brighter there as opposed to collaborating with another person. So yeah, so for her it was get centered with my own idea quietly and build it. Right? The reason why you and I have decided that it would be a shit show if we just had a conversation here, right? We need someone to kind of keep this stuff in line, and it has to be somebody that's objective, and the rules are focused on pulling it back to the audience, because all of a sudden you and I don't give a shit about the audience. We just care about what we're saying, and we're
Right.
just throwing ideas out.
I have another question for you guys. That this comes up when you mentioned the entrepreneurs that don't. Okay, so you've got some people. It's a spectrum. You've got some people who don't share their idea with anyone, and there is actually. I recently read this. There is some research that says you're. This was mind blowing to me. I've always read research that says you're most likely to achieve your goals if you share with an accountability partner. But there's conflicting resource that says uh, you're more likely to achieve your goals if you don't tell anyone because it's a you thing. And I think that the reason there is probably partially based on personality, right? Like we said,
Yeah. Behavioral.
it's what works for you. So you get there's a lot of advice out there in the world, unsolicited, solicited, right? there are podcasts like this one that people listen to that tell you what to do. I recently sat in a training in a class with a self-made billionaire who talked about his habits and systems. And before he started the class, he was like, "What I'm telling you today is how I speak to myself. Everything that you're hearing is what I've wrote down and told myself because it's what worked for me. So I don't want you to listen to this and just take it all for fact. I want you to think about it. What applies to you? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Why do you disagree with it?" He's like, "I'm not trying to convince you that it's right or wrong. I'm just sharing with you what worked for me." That's a big. I was sitting in a room with it was a young professionals event, so people ages 18 to 28. That's a big thing to pose to an 18-year-old, right? It's like you just graduated from high school where you were told everything that you hear is correct and factual and you should listen to it, right? And now I'm telling you, hey, I'm super successful, but I'm not telling you to believe all of this. I'm telling you to create your own filter and determine what you believe. And that's not to say that there aren't facts and there aren't hard truths in the world. I mean, gravity exists. How do we know that? Because we stand up and we stand with 2 feet on the ground.
Every weekend.
All the time. Sometimes I don't stand up. But I guess my question is, what are strategies, or how do we determine what is right for us and what's not? There are patterns in the world, there are truths in the world. How do I know if I'm the person that needs to share with others, or if I keep my $1 million idea to myself?
I think
Go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, I think it's like art, right? You put a Picasso on the wall, and you put a Monet on the wall, and you put a Renoir on the wall, and people come along and they look at him, and well, not everybody's gonna like Picasso, right? Some people love Picasso, but some people thought he was nuts, and like that, my child could paint that, right, or whatever. Everybody's different, and so does that mean any of those is less valuable? Does it mean any of those are less artistic, less of a masterpiece? No. But not everybody likes it. And it's the same thing with the information we get, is we know in some ways what is going to fit us, right? I think, but we automatically at times push that away because what we know fits us is going to take us out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. I think it's just being honest. I read something this week. I'm doing a devotional thing on Pentecost, which is when the Holy Spirit descended. And one thing that jumped out at me, that it said you have conversations with the Holy Spirit every day. The Holy Spirit is the one that when you're about to do something that you really shouldn't do, or that you don't want to do, but you're going to do it anyway, like eat the third bowl of banana pudding, for instance, right? My point is that we have that voice. If you want to call it the universe, you want to call it the Holy Spirit, you want to call it whatever it is, right? We just don't listen to it very often, or we think of it as negative self-talk or whatever. But in reality, I think it's pointing to which masterpiece we like.
Yeah.
Right? It's just that we want to do what it takes to obtain it. And what do we need for that? For me, I need collaboration, right? Because that builds up my enthusiasm and my energy and my confidence and everything else, right? Sometimes in ideas, sometimes just because I get out of here, right?
Yeah.
For other people, it may be going inside and getting all that noise shut out because they can focus then on their own ideas. But I don't know, I equate it to art like that.
That's good. And even the Jiminy Cricket conscience kind of thing, where it's gut or intuition or whatever you want to call it. For me, what it points to is just a basic understanding of the mechanics of how our brain works, and the idea of we are hardwired to seek evidence to support our belief, right? If you're walking around the world and don't know that, that's one state of being. If you're walking around the world and know that, that's another state of being, and maybe that's a higher state of being. If you walk around the world and know that and are curious about it, then you go a little bit higher. You could just keep going down that list of getting more expanded into that. And the way I look at it is like, I know that I'm hardwired to seek evidence to support my belief. And I know beliefs are not black and white. They're subjective. Matt believes something else than I do, vice versa. However, we're still in this world together. So it's possible that Matt's belief is false and I'm right. It's possible that vice versa. The point is, are you courageous enough and aware enough to kind of poke around and say, let me think about my belief around this. So if I'm willing to challenge my own belief in all this evidence I'm seeking, then we get a version of what Matt is saying about, he mentioned, not all self-talk is negative. Right. It's not. Hardwired wise, most of it is, because we are in a fight, flight, freeze aspect of everything's going to kill me. That is very instinctual. We are not a slave to our instincts anymore as we climb that ladder of consciousness. So for you, the Holy Spirit or mind in Jiminy Cricket, or Daryn's in accountability coach, all that is a touchstone back to what do you believe, and you're going to seek out more awareness around that. Daryn's might be a better accountability coach.
We're going to gain more awareness from it.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have the courage to do that.
Yeah.
So it's taking that and actually saying, well, first I got to understand the mechanics. Then I got to understand that this is going to be my filter. My filter is for you. Your belief is you work better in collaboration. That's a belief. You could challenge that. And then after you challenge it, which I think you have based on how you work solo, work in a group, work with someone, that you really are on that same level, and you get different results. And then you say, well, I like that result better. Or the result's not good at all, and I'm going to change my belief because I don't need to collaborate. For whatever reason, it's yours over mine, over Daryn's, over anyone else's. But we get to it by being, I'll just go right back to happy and fun. It's going right back to finding the happy and fun.
Well, I got another analogy image popped in my head as an equalizer, right? Like we can all listen to the same piece of music.
Yeah.
But if you put us in 3 separate rooms with an equalizer to adjust the bass, the treble, the mid, all that stuff,
I would have my own. Yeah.
We would each, and so do I need all collaboration? Do I want the bass up?
Right.
No, I want it here, maybe more than yours, right? Or do I want all the solo high stuff coming out? Well, no, I don't need all of it. I need some of it, right? But it's all different levels for all of us. But it's the same music coming at us.
Bringing it back out in the real world, in your example of the Spanx chick, right? So she kept it inside because she wanted to fertilize it herself. She didn't want anyone else to poison it.
Right.
She figured out how, from a business aspect and entrepreneur, she figured out how to launch it. You can't tell me that there's no collaboration going on right now. You can't tell me that there's not a marketing room and they're sitting around trying to fucking figure out how to get Spanx into everything.
Right.
Right? That's not how she started Spanx, but it's how she needed to foster it, nurture it, and get it out there.
Right.
And that's a success story. I'm sure there's 100 non-success stories, but the point is that if that was her version of fun and happy, great.
Sure.
Do it.
Well, hey, Walt Disney, when he created, I don't know, is that Jiminy Cricket? I don't even know where Jiminy Cricket came from, but Walt Disney, when he created Mickey Mouse, right? He did it probably in his own house in a room somewhere at a desk. He didn't have 5 people going, oh, I think he needs bigger ears, and I think, his tail's too long. He created it, but after he created that iconic image, it went on to, then you need people to create other parts of the cartoon, and then you go on to Disneyland and Disney World and all that stuff. So yeah, it doesn't mean the idea can't be fostered on its own, right? Or not even fostered on its own, but developed or polished or whatever on its own, right? In solitude, and then you collaborate. It all depends. I mean, I would say I work best in solitude after the collaboration, right? It sparks something in me, and that's what gets me going on the.
That's why we meet every other morning. Right. It kind of wraps up all of it in that the example of Spanx and Walt Disney and Mary Poppins.
It's quite a combination.
And bananas.
And bananas. Reminds me of one of my favorite jokes, but I'm not going there.
What smells like bananas but isn't bananas?
Why did Mickey go to the psych? What did Mickey
You
say?
couldn't help yourself.
What did Mickey say to the psychiatrist? I didn't say she was crazy. I said she was fucking goofy.
You've said that to me 100 times, and I laugh every time.
Yes. Daryn doesn't know what
You're on mute. You don't even know it.
Okay. A thought when you're talking about however ideas are like formed, fostered, implemented, they eventually like what takes it out into the world is taking action on those thoughts. Like at some point it has to turn from thought to action. Otherwise it remains thought forever. And I have found in my personal experience and the more awesome people I meet, a lot of times that feels like the biggest hump is like, I have this thought, I have this idea. Yeah, I'm either afraid someone's going to shut it down, or maybe it is a stupid idea and I don't want to share it. How do we move from thought to action? How do we move from idea into implementation?
Are you saying you're inspired? You're at that point, you're inspired.
Yeah.
What's the courage? What's the anchor to get me the courage to actually bring it out to the world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or to simply take any action on it. I think that like some people experience analysis paralysis, right? Or you're just overthinking how it could go wrong, or okay, I've got to have it all figured out before I move into action. It's usually a limiting belief, a mindset thing that is keeping you from moving into action, right?
That would be a limiting belief with analysis paralysis. I believe I need more data to support my my leap of faith is what really we're talking about.
Right.
Right.
So sometimes I think if we can fast forward, right, in imagination anyway, right, that we go, okay, so what if I took this step, right? What's the worst case scenario, right? Because a lot of it's fear, right? It's fear of, I don't know, let's go with an easy one, the fear of public speaking, right? What's somebody's fear? They're going to get embarrassed because they're going to fumble over their words, or they're going to forget what they were going to say, or whatever. Well, okay, let's fast forward. That happens. Can you bounce back from that?
Right.
Right. And they go, well, yeah, I guess I get bounced. Like, okay, so you're not going to die, right? You're not going to end up 6 feet under because of that, right? And so, I mean, that's one part of it is what's the worst case scenario? But then I think what we also don't ever do is what's the best case scenario if I took that step, right? Instead, we just sit here going, I'm not going to take any steps because I don't know. For me personally, it's because I don't do the work to look at it that way and go, okay, what can happen? I just keep going, this doesn't feel comfortable, so I'm just going to sit here and be uncomfortable and my comfortable not doing anything.
Uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
Here's the action circle again, Matt. Right. Action leads to inspiration, leads to motivation. What I hear you saying, Daryn, is okay, so I'm in the inspiration. How do I move to motivation? So you get stuck. If you look at action, inspiration, motivation, it's a complete circle. And if you're stumped inside that circle, you always go back to action because action is the simplest thing you can do. It could be listening to a song, it could be taking a walk, it could be doing some analysis, it could be writing something down. It's not necessarily, doesn't even necessarily have to be driven towards your ultimate goal, right? So if you're stuck in inspiration to get motivated and actually say something, you have to step back to action. And I would actually say that you're not in true inspiration at that point. You're still stuck in action and want to be inspired. So the requirement then becomes, let's try a different action. Because it's not the same action over and over. It's not a repetitive thing. The repetitive thing is just action, right? So the repetitive thing here would be action. Let's do some analysis. Do more analysis. Do more analysis. That's not working. I need to do something else, right? So another action. And if it still hasn't come to you, then you're not done in your action. What my mind's eye kind of like, I'm thinking to myself, what if I was the Spanx lady? Again, it's courage, going back to courage to just have that next action.
Yeah, I would say it's not even always courage. It's just it's. I think we think of action as being I have to take this enormous step, right? And it can
Right.
just be this. Like, I mean, for me, and Dave, you know this already, but like for me, I always used to think, oh, I need a spark. I need something to happen. I need somebody to say something, whatever. I need to have the idea to sit down and write a poem. And then one day I just sat down and I started writing out what I was thinking. And the next thing I know, I'm turning it into a poem. And then I'd go, okay, well, let me think of some words that fit into what somebody wants this poem to sound like. And then that would morph into it. And those little tiny steps of just writing a word, you said, whether it's writing it down, was one of the things you said, because I wrote down, write it down. I think sometimes it's just writing down our thoughts, because we have so much noise in our head. We all have so much going on in different parts of our world and things that are happening that sometimes we just need to sit down with a journal and write down, not so much, I don't know. I always have clients that are like, well, what do I journal on? Like, look, if you're having trouble journaling, just sit down and write whatever comes to your mind. And if it's, I'm pissed off because Publix was out of my favorite flavor of ice cream, or I'm still, pissed off because my landscaper didn't, come this week or whatever. It doesn't matter, because that's the stuff that's holding back what's in there and what you need to get to. And so sometimes it's just getting that stuff out. And even that stuff can spark something more in us. So I just think of the actions as doesn't have to be an enormous action, right? It didn't even have to be an action that really looks like it's going to lead to what you want to achieve. It can just be an action to get you off of that hamster wheel, right, for a minute.
This is interesting. I think that we talked about a lot of different things, and I don't know that we landed on one concise solution, which I think speaks to
The behavior.
the behavioral differences, and the fact that I posed this question of like, how do I know like what's for me and like what's not? One thing that is for everyone is that cycle of moving from inspiration, motivation, moving into action. Analyze, did these actions serve me? Did they get me closer to the goal that I wanted? If yes, repeat or scale. If no, let me go back to inspiration, right? Let me start there. And then I think the fun part is where we find inspiration, how we move into action, how we analyze. All of those things are part of our our personality differences, right? And our different styles. And I think one really cool thing that I've learned from both of you is to celebrate where your strengths are in that cycle. Some people are great action takers, but they're not worth a crap when it comes to analyzing, because they don't care. They're looking ahead, not back. So one thing everyone can do is put people in your life, in your board of directors, as we like to say, that complement those gaps, right? And for a lot of people, that's a coach, to help you find those blind spots and like fill those seats on your bus. Because it's the same cycle for everyone, but different
Some people
strengths.
it's journaling, some people it's meditation, some people it's reading. Yeah, yeah.
But I think
I would disagree with I would disagree with one point, brilliant, and adding that I think we did find it, and it's so simple that we are always taking it for granted. And it's the happy and fun piece. Honestly, because what this reminds me of is the conversation we have with about her emotional charge that she gets when someone says work. Right.
That's going to take work.
It's in this case, right? It's going to take work. So she doesn't like it. She doesn't think things should be work, but she's defined it in a certain way. We discount happy and fun because we say it shouldn't be effort. It should just be magical. It should just, and we shouldn't have fun and happy if we're in the process of digging the ditch to the gold. Like, you have to enjoy digging the ditch, or at least enjoy your work. It might not be in the dirt part of it, but just enjoy that process. So I think the happy fun is finding your in action to inspiration and motivation. It's finding that action that is happy and fun for you. Analysis paralysis, you go towards that because it may be your happy fun, but you're using your strength as a weakness. Then you're like, oh shit, this is frustrating. Well, you're not in happy fun anymore.
Right.
So move from analysis to something else. So anyway, I think a lot of times we discount, like discounts the word work, where I feel everything's work and I love work.
Well, and and this is a good subject to think of for the next one, right? Is work is the same as action.
Yes.
But work sounds difficult.
Yeah.
And action sometimes sounds difficult, but that's why I say small steps, right? Because
happy sounds too easy.
Too often we're looking for the inspiration or the motivation without doing anything on the action side. And it's like, you're not motivated to go to the gym if you haven't been there in a year. You're motivated after you've gone to the gym when you haven't been there for a year. You feel good. Oh, I did it, right? It's not like, woohoo, I can't wait to get to the gym for the first time in a year. Well, how come I didn't do it for the last 365 days, right? So we got to take the action, because that's where the inspiration and the motivation come from. So how do we get into action?
Yeah.
Because that's what brings the happiness too. It's the inaction that causes the unhappiness. Because that's when we go, what am I going to do? Why am I not doing this? Why am I, right? It's the inaction that causes it. It's the action that brings the happiness and brings it brings the inspiration and the motivation in.
Yeah.
So that's my 13 cents, or at least probably up to a quarter now.
Oh yeah, easily.
Oh yeah.
You can buy a lot of stock now in Banana. That's one of my favorite instructors of all time. Says you got to turn your inspiration into perspiration. And that's it. That's what you got to do. Yeah. Put it into action. Kick it into gear.
Thanks for listening, and remember, your outside world is an inside job. See you next time. Hey, can we get some more over here?